welcome back. It is the Marketer of the Day podcast. We have a very fun and unique and special and energetic guest, Mr. Jeff Halligan here from Epique.me. That's EPIQUE.me. And Jeff is a dedicated real estate professional with Epique Realty. He serves the greater Sandpoint and Bonner County areas of North Idaho. And Jeff, he has reimagined the real estate industry. He brings 30 years of experience online, but he's also multifaceted. He's great with online presence development, e-commerce, and digital marketing. So he is a formidable force in the real estate market. So we're going to find out from Jeff about what makes him unique, why if you're in that North Idaho region, you should seek him out for your real estate needs, but more importantly, just how we can build a business, make a living, become a published author, do this online presence thing, and so much more. So Jeff, glad to meet you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Great to have you. And so,
this is awesome.
It's awesome talking to you. And so you have all these things going on. You have all these like multi hobbies with the kayaking, the skiing, the coffee, the sci-fi. What currently has you excited? What's your focus and passion?
Right now, most of it's actually just building this business. I'm really enjoying getting the old guard kind of upset. I like ruffling feathers sometimes. So kind of that gets me going, finding new ways that other people aren't thinking of. Really kind of excites me. But hobby wise, I mean, our water's wet now, so up here in North Idaho in the winter everything freezes solid. So water's wet, it's time to get the kayak in it when I can. When work's not, keeping me out of it. I've only gotten out there a couple times this year, but looking forward to doing some more before the end of summer for sure.
Wonderful. And you hear a lot about that, how hobbies are important to give the mind a little bit of a break, to think about your next moves, your big picture. So that way, when you get back from the kayaking trip, you're refreshed, renewed, recharged, and you can really kick some ass and take some names, especially when it comes to real estate. So you're basically saying that you're a disruptor, which is a fun place to be, right? Because the old guard,
sure.
The establishment, they have time, the time of the past on their side. They have all these resources, all this list, traffic, customers, money, and to be a new, maybe not a newcomer, but someone that's just like shaking things up, doing things differently, making them so mad, putting yourself on the map. That's where we want to be. And so what are you doing in real estate to disrupt things?
Bringing technology to it. Like most real estate trainings are talking about, knocking on doors, cold calling, just bugging the crap out of everyone repetitively. Really drilling it in these tactics that worked 20, 30 years ago. They were great. That's how everybody did everything, and everyone kind of understood. Yeah, you were going to get phone calls. You were going to, people were going to blow up your mailbox with flyers and postcards and everything like that. But that stuff doesn't have the ROI anymore that it used to. How often do you answer your cell phone if it's a number you don't know?
Almost
right?
Never.
Right. So why would I waste my time calling those? Right? I can
you're limiting yourself. You only get a certain demographic answering.
Right. And they're probably not the ones that you actually want to talk to.
Right.
Same thing with sending postcards. That used to be a pretty lucrative way to do it. And it still works to some degree, especially in some markets. But I mean, how many are you sending out to get one lead?
Right.
To have one conversation's costing you $100, $200. I think that's probably a pretty good campaign. If you're getting one real conversation per $100, you're probably doing all right. But for a lot of people, that's not very good turnaround. You need to talk to 100 people to get 1 to 3 accounts. Well, that math gets real expensive real quick.
Right. And discouraging and all the rest. And
yeah.
And I think about this all the time, about how like the old school marketing tactics they're great to sometimes bring out, especially because some people give up on them. But then when I
Right.
use them in combination with other with techniques, that's really fun, right? To send a letter in
Exactly.
the mail, send
Exactly.
a
And
book,
I'm
send an email, send a LinkedIn when it's part of a larger system.
yeah,
Now you're
if you're
cooking with some
touching
gasoline.
them in different ways, that's way more effective. I was gonna say, here in North Idaho, everybody's armed. You probably don't want to go knocking on someone's door at 6 o'clock at night.
Right,
Not everybody's real receptive to that, especially the way
right.
that the world is right now. It's
And I'm one of them. I mean, like you basically described me. Like the phone rings, I don't want to answer because you hear about the robocalls, and once you answer once, then they
yeah,
know that you're a human and they keep trying you. And then when someone knocks on the door, they're like, well, you hear just enough stories like, well, is it some home invader? And I won't answer the door if they won't leave. I'll just
right,
like talk to them through the door just because you hear about that's a safety thing. You never know who's out there. So the world has
right.
changed, and we need to market a different way. And so what is sort of your process? Like what is a sale to you, and what are the techniques you like to get someone through that funnel?
I've actually taken a lot of the like the info marketing and tribal marketing aspects, and the funnel starts off like, for example, for canceled listings. If I'm reaching out to them, I'll start with an email sequence, shoot them 4 or 5 emails, and then I'll send them a personal text after like 2 emails. I'll send them a text message if I have their phone number, and I'll send them a direct text message that's not automated, and just asking to meet up with them or talk with them. Hey, would you like to get together for a cup of coffee, my treat, or maybe have a phone call? What time would work best for you? Do you like Mondays or Fridays? Or is weekends better and mornings or afternoons? If you need to do evenings, we can even do that. I'm a cheap date. We can do McDonald's. Something exactly, it gets a smile on their face, when they read it. I
Yeah.
try to keep it pretty short, pretty sweet, and then, depending on how they get back to me, even if they tell me to go screw myself, at least I got a response. I don't, I'm not going to take that personal, but at least I know that I got a response and I can move forward. Because all I need at this point is a yes or no to talk to me. Then once that's established, we can go into, getting a time for a lead presentation, for a listing presentation, or, how are we going to market the home, whatever we need, or a buyer's presentation, whatever they're looking to do and how I can help them. Once we establish that first contact, we can move forward to that. And from there, it all looks pretty similar.
That's great, and that's doable. And this is all the kind of the sales 101 that some of us need to learn, or some of us need to be refreshed about. And me and my wife have these kind of sales conversations all the time. Like we both cold prospect on LinkedIn, and the first couple of years we got discouraged when people would be
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people would be rude and nasty, right? And then
Right.
it happened enough where we grew just enough of a thick skin where we said, hey, at least to know that's moves them somewhere else on the flow chart. And if they say something that's maybe not promising, hey, at least they responded with something. And that's a kind of a more optimistic view, right? That
Yeah.
no matter what they responded with, if they responded, that's some progress.
Well, I learned something from one of Eben Pagan's programs years ago. That your head if your headline works, they open the email. Right? If the subject line works, its only job is to get them to open it. So if they open it, that's working. If they do whatever you're asking in the email, then the content's working. So if I get a yes or no, I don't care which one I get. As long as I get one, I know that email worked. It's when they're not responding to it at all, when they're just letting it float out there, that your email's not working.
That's a huge insight right there. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
micro commitments, and like what's the goal? The goal isn't to just get a sale from that
it's just to get a
immediate email. That
response.
never happens. It's just to
Yeah,
get a response.
any
That's
kind
great.
of response. Yeah, let me know that you actually saw it and connected in some way with me, and we're great.
And do you happen to know, like, or have a guess about like what your numbers are like when you send these emails and text messages to get the cheap McDonald's date? Like how many do you have to send to get from
um
point A to point B?
Right now, I've got it's probably about a 4 to 5% rate to get
Wow.
a conversation. I think I got about a 20% opening rate turning, and overall it's about 4 to 5% conversation. So for 100 people, I'll get 5 conversations out of it.
Yeah. And I imagine that you've gotten pretty efficient out of it, right? Like to send 100 text messages, you like maybe at first it took a while, but now, I mean, knock that out in
Oh
like, I don't know, like an hour or so, and then you get 5
yeah,
conversations. That's enough to deal with.
yeah, for sure. That you can book your week up pretty quickly that way, especially because you're also following up with the people that haven't answered you yet.
Ooh, yeah.
If you just ignore me, I don't go away. You know,
Right,
I leave when you die or buy.
right.
You know, so tell me where to go or buy something. Otherwise, we're buddies.
Yeah, I'll keep on pinging
Yeah,
and trying new things just to get a response. And you're giving me another flashback because my wife had a similar conversation. She's like, well, because like sometimes on these LinkedIn messages, like it'll go for like not every day, but like every 3 or 6 months, sometimes over like
yeah,
2 or 3 years, and it's sometimes led to a sale or it's sometimes led to a no after like 3 years. And my wife's like, well, aren't you being kind of annoying? And it's like, no, I'm staying in touch. It would be annoying if
right.
I was every day, but
Well,
there's like a Grant Cardone story where like he followed up over like 30 years or something like
yeah.
that and finally got a sale. So I'm like,
Well,
hey,
it's
follow up
the
works.
it's July 2nd. I mean, 4th of July is coming up. Everybody's getting an email and text message from me that says Happy 4th of July.
Yeah,
Have a safe 4th. Try to keep all your fingers, toes, and at least one eyebrow. That's it.
nice.
That's all it's saying. Because, at least one eyebrow, everyone's going to chuckle a little. And you're like, yeah, okay. And that's it. I won't bug them any more than that. But it just kind of keeps you in, front of mind.
Right. That's great. It keeps you top of mind. And then
And
when
no
it
one
comes
gets
time
upset.
later on,
It's you're not being pushy or salesy or something. It's just, hey, it's the holiday. Enjoy.
yeah. And then even going back to like the micro commitment part, like you're still not trying to get the sale right away. You're just like later on when there's a message, then it won't be all this like all the sales stuff. It'll be like some of the friendly stuff in
Right.
between in the message history.
Well, and
And it also
it'll mostly be somewhat friendly, even if part of it has a salesy intent.
yeah. And it
Because the more
what's
I can
also
find out about them online, the more the friendly stuff will come through.
and what do you look for when you look for that personalization?
Anything that I can connect with them on, genuinely, that I actually can connect with somebody on.
So
And
like
that
hobby,
it's usually not
movies, posts,
hobbies,
content.
movies, music. Music's a big one to connect people. Music's huge for that. And that can be stuff you like or don't like. You know,
Ooh,
find a
yeah.
band that they hate that you don't like. You know, make fun of Nickelback because
I
whether
was just
people like
thinking
them or
Nickelback.
not,
Yeah.
see exactly whether you like them or not, Nickelback's top of line for that.
Yeah. Well, nice.
Even their fans make fun of them. So
So why not go with it? Yeah, and so it
yeah,
seems like there's
yeah.
a lot of humor in a lot of these examples that you're mentioning.
Um, I think a lot of authenticity is more accurate. Because I don't try to make sure that I include it. I just kind of include what's natural for me.
Right.
When me and friends are hanging out, we're joking back and forth, we're having a good time. So why wouldn't I do that with somebody if I'm trying to make a friend? Right?
Right.
Well,
That makes complete sense.
I am building this relationships before transactions.
Yes.
So all of my clients on some level are a friend of mine. We may not hang out all the time, but there's certainly somebody I would consider a friend, How much trust do you have to put into a real estate agent for, what's probably one of the biggest transactions in your life? And they're going to bat for you takes a lot of trust. Well, I don't know anybody that trusts someone who's not a friend of theirs.
Right. And yeah, more flashbacks of like when when we eventually like make a sale on LinkedIn, and even if it's a little difficult, I tell my wife like, hey, I'm just some stranger on the internet, and sometimes it turns into a sale. Like I expect some work to be involved. And so, and it's like, it seems like your thought process here is, well, you do this kind of work up front, you do the relationship building, you have the genuineness, and then you eventually you want the math to work out, right? You need to make a
Right.
living, but then if it's not getting to that point, that's just more of the system to debug, right? You're like, well, why
Right.
aren't they
Exactly.
responding, or am I not contacting enough people, or is the
Right.
sequence not quite
You're
right?
just connecting dots. You know what dots need to connect, so you're just trying to figure out how to connect each one.
Yeah, I like that metaphor. And so,
Um,
like, you're here just kind of dishing some knowledge, explaining some stuff, but it's also a two-way street, right? You share some secrets, but I also want to tell my people about you. And so you're a real estate agent in the North Idaho area. But what is a an ideal transaction for you, and what's an ideal sort of customer for you? Just so that way, if someone's listening, they know they're the right person.
right. I guess ideal transaction is probably somebody who's already knows what they can afford. So either it's a cash type deal, or they've already got their financing figured out, right? Because nothing sucks more than showing somebody their dream home and finding out they can't buy it. Right?
Right.
I'm not there to break people's hearts or cause arguments between spouses.
Sure.
And those are the two things that happens when you go that route. When you're looking first and then try to finance it doesn't usually work out very well.
Right. Kill some
you know
dreams.
so right, so if they do a little homework on their end first, makes things a lot easier for everybody. And really somebody who's looking for the lifestyle that's present here. A lot of outdoor activity, a connection with nature, things of that nature. It is a more conservative area, so that's something to keep in mind, because a lot of people, have images that may or may not be accurate about the area.
Sure.
Idaho's got a bad rap from the 80s or 90s. That most of that seed has been pushed out, but that doesn't mean it's completely gone either.
Okay.
So
Well,
people should be aware of that. Expect 4 seasons here. Actually, we considered about 6, but expect 4 real ones. You're going to get your summer, your fall, we're going to have a winter, and you're going to have spring. We joke around about second winter and mud season, because when all the snow melts, everything's muddy everywhere. And then we normally have another cold snap after that where we get some more snow. So we call it second winter.
okay. And a lot of people like that, right? The outdoorsy mountain men.
Right. Well, and see, this area, not only do we have Schweitzer Mountain got recognized as one of the top resorts in the country this last year. And
Awesome.
we're at the bottom of that mountain. And we're also right on Lake Pend Oreille, which is Idaho's biggest lake and one of the biggest lakes on this side of the country. So,
Super cool. So, like, what's there to do at that lake? Is there fishing?
everything. There's fishing. You can go for bass, kokanee, which are like the really big trout. 20, 30-pound trout. Regular trout. There's multiple species. I mean, if you put a hook in the water, you can catch something. There's anywhere from perch and bluegill all the way up to trophy kokanee, pike, and bass, both large and smallmouth.
Nice.
Very diverse lake. It's big. It's 45 miles long. The lake is. It's huge. So I mean, there's plenty of room for all the wakeboarders and speedboats and sailboats, whatever you want to do. If it involves the water, this is a good spot to do it.
Okay, well, great. So it's a wonderful place to live if that's what you like. And sometimes I daydream. I'm like, should I live here? I go on YouTube and there's always like driving videos. Like I can look up
Right.
like Las Vegas driving and just kind of see what the area is like. And so that's great as far as the geography. And then as far as the buying a home, right? The real estate
Right.
aspect, you've seen some stuff. And you're always thinking about like, okay, what do these guys know? What's like the inside track? Like, what should people really know about buying a home that maybe isn't discussed enough?
That's there's a wide range of styles of homes here. We've got a whole lot of growth going on and a whole lot of new development. So we're starting to see a lot more modern designs, a lot more modern fixtures and layouts on the insides, a lot more open floor plan type things. I think that's, what kind of home you want is going to somewhat dictate what town you want to be in. like
Okay.
the development in Sandpoint is starting to look a lot more like, more modern homes. Not so much, the sharp angles and things like that, but more the neighborhoods you're going to see in some of the bigger developed areas. Western Washington, Oregon, places like that, you're going to see more of this style home. They're moving away from the kind of rancher styles with the bigger yards. We're starting to see more cul-de-sac type developments, just because of the volume of people we've had. When COVID, had most of the country shut down, North Idaho really didn't very much. We weren't locked in, nobody was locked in their house. And I mean, yeah, they suggested wearing a mask and everybody put up plexiglass. And I mean, it's Idaho. We don't stand closer than 6 feet from each other anyways. That's why you
Right.
come here, you want a little elbow room.
Right. Funny. Well, great. And so it seems like the big lesson there is know what you want, right? Know what
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
house, know
Know
what kind
what you
of
want.
yard.
Know that you've got some variety, so you can decide what you want rather than just what's right in front of you. If you
Right.
want
Don't
a condo, you can do that. If you're into the townhome, you can do that kind of a situation. Or you can, own your own four walls and some property.
right. And there's no right or wrong. It's just what your needs are, what
What's
you want.
gonna work for you? We can put you into an HOA neighborhood, or we can put you somewhere where you can do whatever the hell you want.
Well, within reason, right? That can be kind of
Right.
scary, but maybe
Well, I
freeing
mean,
too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, everything's within reason, but I think our version of within reason is a lot more flexible than a lot of places.
Well, yeah, and good. So it's if that's your jam, if that's the place
if
you want
that's
to
what
move
you
to, then
if you
Sandpoint,
want
Idaho
a little
sounds like
bit
your jam.
more, yeah. If you want to escape from an area for reasons that make you want to leave, this is probably an area to look at.
Well, very cool. Well, we got a little glimpse into some of your philosophy, sales, real estate, buying a home in the kind of the last few minutes of our conversation. Is there a question that you wish I'd asked you that I haven't asked you?
Um, I don't think that there's anything that we really need to discuss unless you want to talk about, I mean, my thoughts on this whole NAR thing that's on every other headline. Seems when it comes to real estate.
What's that?
The NAR lawsuits and the settlement.
I think I saw some post on it, but I'm completely in the dark. What's the
Sure,
NAR
sure.
lawsuit?
So the lawsuit stated that the real estate industry, the National Association of Realtors, which all of us have to join, it seems. I mean, there might be a few out there that don't, but for the most part, they've been accused of violating the antitrust laws. And because of how commissions have been done for, since the beginning of time, and it kind of became unofficially standardized, which is in fact a violation of the antitrust laws. You can't dictate that this is how much we charge, and that's just the way it is.
Sure.
Right? Well, unofficially that was starting to happen because the same example would be used over and over again and would just kind of bleed into everything. And the verbiage in the contracts wasn't informing the sellers that was a negotiable thing, that they didn't have to stick with that recommendation. So NAR came up with NAR in conjunction with the DOJ, and it isn't fully hashed out yet. It won't be, finalized. I think it's later this month it gets finalized. It gets adapted in August is the timeline that I saw. But I'm not worried about it. I've been doing the changes since before they announced them. But
Right.
essentially what they're saying is that you have to make it clear in your buyer's agreement that the buyers are, at the end of the day, the ones responsible for their side of a commission payment, whatever that is.
Okay.
Okay, so traditionally it's been put on the sellers that the seller would cover, the buyer's agent's commission. That was kind of standardized unofficially, and that's where they got into a problem with it. So now it'll be, end of the day, it'll be the buyer on the buyer's plate, but the seller could still decide to, take care of that in the negotiation on the deal. A lot of people
Okay.
are freaking out, scared that, oh, well, buyers aren't going to qualify now because they've got to come up with this extra money, this, that, and the other thing. Well, the lenders are already aware of the situation, for one, so they're planning on figuring it out on their end. And it's really just a matter of what side of the table in the closing paperwork it lands on, because it's all part of the close one way or the other. Whether you're paying it or I'm paying it, if we're in a deal, it's going to happen at the close either way. So it's
And
not
it's
as
just the
big.
latest thing to figure out, right?
Right. It's one more thing for the agents to communicate back and forth on.
Yeah.
It's one more thing to be negotiated. That's all. That's all it really is. Everyone's kind of freaking out over it, and they really don't need to. One thing I really like is that part of the settlement is that buyers are going to have to sign an agreement with an agent prior to looking at homes. People, a lot of agents are concerned about that. In fact, some of the ones that were mentoring me when I absolute green out the gate were questioning it, because I was making people sign them on our first meeting. I was like, look, if we're going to do this together, I need you to sign this saying, you and me are going to do this together.
Right.
And
It protects both people.
right. And I was, and my mentor was like, well, why are you doing that? Just put it in as part of the closing paperwork. And I was like, why do I want to waste my time for a month with somebody looking at homes and driving them around and doing all this homework for them, and then them go, yeah, we're just not going to use you,
Right.
after the fact. Like, I'm not going to do that. So I really like that they're bringing that aspect, they're making that official where that's how you have to do it. Well, part of it was because I went, see, you know, and then, like I said, I like to ruffle feathers sometimes.
Yeah.
And
So it's an advantage for you
oh,
because
for sure.
it's you're already doing it. You have knowledge of the nuance, and everyone else is just like panicking,
They're
being negative. That
scrambling,
doesn't
right?
help anybody.
Because it's new to them.
Yeah.
It's new. And then the other thing that they're doing is when realtors are putting up a listing in the MLS, they're no longer going to be allowed to state what the seller has agreed to pay for buyer commissions. Which, again, I fully support that one, because if you're a buyer's agent, your job is to get your clients the best house at the best price that you can,
Right.
regardless of what commission you're getting paid.
Yeah.
So if they're announcing, hey, we're paying 4%, and there's another house that might fit the bill better, but they're going, hey, we're paying 2%, well, it's very difficult for an agent to want to push the 2%, right?
Right.
Because human nature, you're looking out for yourself too, because you got to eat,
Yeah.
right? But so if you take that away, now you're looking at what's the best house for your client. And that's all you're looking at initially. And then you can go, once you get into conversation and negotiation and start putting together an offer, then you can discuss, compensation and who's paying what.
Well, great. And so you're knowledgeable about this, and you give me flashbacks to in the digital marketing world. Every couple of years, there's something like this, right? There's
Right.
if it's not
Always.
GDPR, FTC, Google Slap, who knows what else,
Yeah.
and it's just the Visa
ICANN?
Mastercard, right?
How about
Yeah,
your
it's just
ICANN rules?
oh yeah, I mean yeah, it never ends. It's like
Yeah.
what's Google doing? What's Facebook doing? What's Apple doing with their cookies and iOS 14? It's just like it's never ending. But then there's the people that like panic and maybe even get some significance, relevance in being the person that's shouting about it. It's like, hey, it's a minor problem. You deal with it. You focus on what you can control, and then you have some knowledge about it, and maybe you tweak your process, and everybody still wins. So that's a great awareness to have about the scuttlebutt, and we'll be looking forward to see how that plays out as far as what's finalized. And as far as you and some contact information, how should someone get in contact with you about some North Idaho real estate?
Best way is probably going to be just to email me, Jeff Halligan at epique.me, but it's EPIQUE.me.
All right, so
that's going
Jeff.
to be their best way. The other thing they could do is they could shoot me a text message at 208-597-2209.
Okay, and so let me let's see. So that is Jeff Halligan at HALLIGAN at epique.me, EPIQUE.me, and then to make sure they have the phone number one more time, can we get it?
Yeah, 208-597-2209.
Very cool. Well, you've
And
given us like
I start at 4:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so
that is an admirable work ethic, right? You start bright and early while the fish are still swimming.
That's right. If I'd get up at that time to go fishing, I might as well get up to start work.
Yeah, you're up anyway. And so that's Jeff Halligan at epique.me. And to close this conversation out, do you have a final quote or lesson to really blow our minds, amaze us to end the conversation?
Do, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Give me a second.
All right.
My mouse isn't working. I think it just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and just really be who you know yourself to be. One of the things that I found when writing my email sequences and my sales pitches and stuff is I go through the scripts that, everybody gives you and that's online available in 100 different places. And I write them out and I send them out for about a day or two. And really, I only do it to prove to myself how much they suck.
Okay.
Because they are completely disingenuous and, they're always hyper aggressive and they're just terrible scripts, right? So I start with those until they irritate me and then I get rid of them. And you might have noticed it on my LinkedIn at one point. I actually stated that I was pissed at all the marketing tricks, so I wasn't going to use any of them. And went and wrote my, went through my whole profile and redid the whole thing with it and made sure not to use any of the little marketing gimmicks for the algorithm. And it actually did really well. So, that's really it, is take everything everyone's telling you to do, throw it in the garbage can, and just be yourself.
Very nice. And we learned that as kids and somehow unlearn it as adults, but it's time
because everyone
embrace...
tells you have to do this, you have to do that, you can't make a sale without the, it's got to have a call to action. Well, why?
Right.
Why does it have to be there?
Right.
Why does every single email I send have to have a call to action? How about hey, thanks for reading it?
Yep. Well, we will end on a call to action with this, and that will be
Great.
Jeff Halligan at epique.me. And if you don't like that call to action, then that's okay. You learn some great things about digital marketing and sales and real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they just want to email me, ask how the fishing is, or just say hi, that's cool too.
They call that being accessible. So
that's
Jeff
right.
Halligan, North Idaho real estate agent. Wonderful speaking with you, friend.
Hey, it was great. Thanks for having me on here.
All right, super.